Hi, this is Jeremy Katz. I'm here for ogilvydo. I'm here with Daniel Franklin. Daniel is the executive editor of The Economist. We've just completed an Intelligence Squared debate involving an entire group of panelists speaking about posting at your own peril on the internet. And we're going to ask him a few questions to elaborate on that.
Well,
thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
So the first question really has to do with sort of a tangential issue, I think, to this, and that is what about personal responsibility on the internet? Where does a person's own action come into play?
Well, it's central, but on that part of the motion that we were discussing today, I'm in total agreement. You have to be aware of the risks. You have to be aware that what you post, which you may think you'll be posting just to a few friends or colleagues, is potentially public, and so you have to be certainly more conscious than a lot of people seem to have been in many instances that have become well known, where they're suddenly surprised that what they thought was private becomes very public. But then, by the same token, it doesn't really end there, because sometimes things are posted about you without your knowledge. In fact, there's an increasing propensity for that to happen with the ubiquity of mobile phones, internet-enabled, live streaming, and so on. You can be put online without your knowledge at any time, pretty much, and you don't know anything about it, and lo and behold, your life is public and you have no real control over it. So there's personal responsibility about you posting about your own life, but there's also, and this is the trickier bit, the responsibility of others who are putting things up about third parties, and often with a sort of herd or mob mentality, and with no real restraint.
What about that restraint? Do we have an obligation as a society to build it into our laws, into the way we educate our children, or is this simply part of the new world that we will have to adapt to?
Certainly in the way we educate people, I think, because it's part of, I suppose, being civilized. We talk about civilized behavior for a reason, and there's no difference, should be no difference to that in digital media as in real life. For some reason, people seem to often think that they're entering an area of irresponsibility or a parallel universe where the normal codes of behavior don't apply all too often. So I think that's a challenge, certainly for education, for just etiquette, but potentially for regulation too, because clearly people are sometimes doing things which are illegal, and they should be taken to task for that. And in some cases, perhaps the law should be tightened to make abuses more easier to catch. Although I think that is an area where you need to be very careful, because regulation can have a dampening effect and can easily be counterproductive.
Hearing you talk, there's a question that just occurs to me, and that is, what is the role of a large corporation or a brand when they're dealing with posting on the internet? Are they to be commended for being out there, or should they simply shut themselves down because of the damage that could accrue to a brand as a result of being public?
I think we're beyond that, really. I don't think that it's an option not to do it for most companies, at least consumer-facing companies, certainly, and increasingly for other companies as well. It's just it's part of the way that business is done. It's part of what the world expects, and to closet yourself away is a bit like being a hermit in the physical world. It just isn't the way that companies generally are going to be able to reach their customers and become known. So it's a question of doing it well. It's just like other things in business. It's not clever to be there. It's a question of being true to yourself, I think, first of all, and being aware of the potential pitfalls of what can go wrong. And there are enough horror stories out there for there to be good case studies, I think, to give some instruction there. But that said, new channels, new technologies are happening all the time, so it's a continual learning process.
And a final question, if I might. We talked earlier about being true to yourself. How does an internal truth or authenticity insulate you, if it does at all, from hate on the web?
Well, I'm not sure that anything easily insulates you from hate, but I think being aware of context is perhaps helpful in making sure that you try to be aware of how things might be seen out of context, and therefore viewed by others who perhaps don't know you as well, don't know that what you're saying in jest may be taken quite literally by other people, or culturally. I mean, after all, the internet is a global medium. You may be saying something that goes down perfectly well in one place, but in other parts of the world is taboo. So this is not easy stuff, and it just means that a level of consciousness and awareness is increasingly called for, particularly for businesses that are operating globally as well.
Thank you very much for your time, both on the panel and now for us now.
Thank you, my pleasure.